So that could work. As far as the style goes, I know some students are totally hooked on Khan Academy. They like the way he talks. They like all that kind of stuff. Some students totally like other companies. Different thing there. But I like the color on black is really, really nice for them because they can see that kind of content and it's a lot easier for them to visualize. So I wonder, maybe if I shut up, I can put this.
So this would be smack dab in between. So that would be 11 and 5/10, or that would be 11.5. Well, I've already done the first part. I've figured out.
Yeah, because recording the audio is going to feedback. Let's turn that off. Okay, question time. So they've got a couple different types of questions. I really like these ones. They've actually built in interactivity. So you would go in here and say, move the dot to 0.2 on the number line. And you just kind of, you can play with it and go, okay, well, if that's 1, it's 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. Okay, so that's going to be 0.2. If you make a mistake, let's say I put it there, go over here and check answer. I'm going to say you got something wrong. From there, you can now go, okay, let's go get a hint. Let's see what that, okay, so it looks like it's divided into 10 equal pieces. And as you get more and more hints, obviously the question is worth less and less, and it's less and less right, and the system tracks that kind of stuff. I also really like this system. This is something I think we would do well to institute in all math. Instead of getting 50% of the questions right, you have to get 5 in a row. So, a good example of this is, who here is good at 7, 8 times tables? And you got an 80 on your multiplication test. This is because you skipped all the 7s and 8s, which means you got 80% of them right. So this forces you to, when those 7s come up, you're back at 0, you got to start over again. So I really like that as kind of a, instead of just getting the questions right, you actually can master a concept in that. So it's kind of cool for that. If you get actually rate the right number, you can check answer, correct, moving on. So those are the kind of questions. As I said, lots of different content in there. So I use, let me go back here. I'm generally using stat stuff. And again, as the content gets more and more advanced, the questions kind of start to peter out. And as I start getting into things like biology, there's no questions, and it's just kind of a teaching lesson. Yeah, different content there.
There is, though, a question-answer section. And I don't know if you're going to talk about that later, but that does exist in the biology section.
Oh, there is. Okay.
So students will ask a question, and then there's tutors or teachers like us can go and answer it for them. So I can sign up as a Khan Academy as a teacher and volunteer to answer student questions. There's a bunch of that as well too.
Yeah. So it does. They all have that, which I actually kind of like. Down at the bottom of so I guess the advanced concepts. This one's going to have it, of course. Yeah, they do have a questions, like content questions.
Yeah, that's what I
And they can go down here. This is also used for, okay, there's an error, make a comment or whatever. Yes, and so I should mention that too. There is a huge community behind Khan Academy. And this is something that I'm pushing all the publishers on right now because they're all saying, oh, our tech system is so robust, all the questions have been checked and everything. I'm like, yeah, this is YouTube. You make one error and you are toast. So whenever they do make an error, it comes up really, really quickly, and they fix it really, really quickly. Whereas we've got online systems for publishers that have been there for decades, and they're still full of errors because the students don't tell you. Mm-hmm. They've also got, this might be a problem for some of the international students because they're learning different contents, but they do have a different language option. They have people that are going in and changing all of the content into a whole different language. And that the list is kind of long. And if you want to go in and translate content, you're more than welcome to, and they have a whole pile of different content for that. I think they do multiple viewers on that, so very nice little thing.
Is there
yes?
software translating at the moment, or is it translated ahead of time and ready?
I think it's all translated ahead of time. I think the text can be done by Google Translate, but the audio is somebody's actually going and re-recording all of the audio for him in a different language. Yes. Just trying to check my list. Cool. The other thing is this little bit. Unfortunately, it doesn't display very nicely on this big projector, but I will display it nonetheless. This is his knowledge map, and I'm going to go up to the top where it's a little less complicated. And it's mostly for educators. Students can use it as well, obviously. But it's all the links. You can't really see the lines up here. But there's all the links between all the different units. If you were to be a student, you take your 3-year-old and say, here, Khan Academy, I'll see you in 20 years. They would start off counting to 100, and the system would just gradually kind of work them through the content all the way down. My stats students get it automatically because I'll send them to basic probability, and they'll finish that, you end up in the computer, just kind of say, well, here's some more questions, let's keep moving along. So we will keep up pace with them and kind of suggest new things. When we get into coaching stuff, there is now ways to actually kind of force suggest and say, how about you go do this, or how about you go do this. So that's also available. Okay, cool. Any questions about the student stuff? Any questions at all, for that matter? Yes?
Is there a self-assessment that students can take, say if they're starting somewhere and they know that their math skills aren't as strong, to help them to self-study?
Yeah, so because the content is mostly designed for school boards to kind of self-directed, I think personally the whole system should be directed to some extent. There should be somebody saying, I think you should do this, or I think you should do this, and travel it through. There isn't anything particular. They do have this thing now, and when you actually start, unfortunately I don't have a new account, when you first start, there's a I think it's a 20-question quiz that makes you go through, and you kind of go, I know that, I don't know that, I know that. And it kind of sets you up as a baseline of what they're going to start throwing up as content. So there is an initial quiz they run you through to try to get that, but there's so much content it can't be really specific at what level you're going into. These mastery challenges are the same kind of thing. So I can go open up, instead of doing just probability or whatever, I can just open up this, and it will give me a bunch of problems on a basic concept, and I can go in and say, I haven't learned this yet, and it'll skip the question for me and stop asking me those kind of things, and try to obviously hone you in. The downside of the system, obviously, is it's so huge that you really need kind of years of kind of working through it. You kind of start off young and work your way through it. When you're, apparently I know no math because I'm missing a lot of stuff, but it's because I haven't gone through the system and done the questions and said, I know how to do this. So it does have that a little bit. Whereas that's why for my students, I really do direct them. I say, you should be doing probability and this and this and this, and they directed what they're going for.
I was just mentioning, I imagine they'll eventually get to it, but certain concepts have prerequisites, so if you answer a question on one topic, clearly you have the knowledge from the other one, so that it should be auto-populated.
Yeah, and it does, like if you get things wrong, it will kind of suggest, okay, let's go back a little bit. But yeah, it's not as smart as it could be.
And I mean, for programming, you were mentioning that it's some new language that they developed for this, but it's based kind of on, there's a lot of sites out there that have kind of something, but we're trying to do applied here.
Exactly,
So.
exactly. So, and that definitely speaks to that, almost every single video and every single question set I give to my students, I definitely review it at the very least and skip through it. Maybe if it's a video, I'll kind of go, okay, make sure the right concepts, especially in stats, because the number of concepts are still unanimously taught wrong, so I'll go and make sure that they're still somewhat right, or make a comment, be like, don't watch this video because it's wrong. It's a field thing. Yeah, I do try to check up on the content a little bit, just so I know what the students are getting. Especially where the content kind of goes way outside the course. I'm like, they're going to get confused and get off that. So it is nice for that.
Just
Cool.
to add to that, I was going to mention this at the end, and we can talk about it more. There's another site out there that's trying to, not mimicking the Khan Academy, but it's just taking a different approach. It's called Socratic.org. And this, you've probably heard of it. And it's not just him doing the recording of the videos. The videos are added by multiple users, and it's the best videos on that topic. And so what teachers do, it's mostly in the sciences at this point, is there's a lesson plan like this that goes like that, but that you'll have different people's videos that get upvoted or downvoted, and that users sort of, it's crowdsourced more than this is. So it's just sort of a different concept, and so you're more checking for correctness. It just got started, I guess, probably a year and a half ago.
And that's the thing with Khan Academy, is that, to me, the videos on here are nothing special. I don't think videos are special. I think the questions and the way it runs the questions are special, and that's why I like the site. If you want to get good video, I get cross all the time going, where's a good video on quadratics? I'm like, go to YouTube, type in quadratic, go for popular, click on that video. Students can find the videos. It's the practice questions and the way to actually track it. I'll show you what you can get in the back end, though, because that's what's really nice as a coach, and you can actually track that kind of stuff. So yeah, the questions are ideal. The videos are, one or the other. You can watch anything. Yeah.
And they're trying to do the questions as well, but they're not yet as advanced as this. So they're sort of depends what you want.
Yeah. Okay, where are we here? One of these windows. Oh, right, I'm up here. Okay, so in the coach tab, and so up here. I really like the fact that it's called a coach tab. It's not a teacher tab. So you'll get students adding students, friends adding friends, so you can track them. We do it in the Math Center as kind of a track them, whatever we're using. The majority I use it for is just to watch my students who are doing it. So start off with, you can add students directly in the system. So you can grab your student list, all your Humber mail addresses, hit add. They will get an email that says, your prof has added you to this course. Would you like to accept? And it gets loaded in that way. At the same time, if I have a course, so for instance, here's my course, I've got a little code up here. The students enter that code into their coach tab, and I'll be added as a coach. Again, it's all, in this case, it's just a voluntary optional thing for them, but they can do whatever they want. They do have a really nice system for child accounts. I know that's not a major issue here. For students that don't have Gmail, Facebook, or are allowed on the web, and there's a parent-operated and controlled account that the little kids are allowed to use, which is kind of nice. So that's kind of cool. Other than being able to add students here, and actually, so for instance, I can go in. Where's a good site? So here's a student that I've added. They haven't actually confirmed yet, and here's students that I have actually confirmed. I can track them. And from here, the only major thing I can do is I can actually put a mission. So I've told my students they're doing probability and statistics, and that's their mission, and that's the majority of the questions they're going to get from me are going to be based on probability and statistics. And it's going to track that kind of information. You could do early math, you could make grade 3 and tell your students they need to work harder. And they'll see that kind of content as well. There's also a subscription that they'll send you about once a week, how everybody's doing, what everybody's done, a little layout of what's going on.
Can you date the mission? They must complete the mission by.
We will get to that,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
So this is just basically to add students. That's all this system really is for. Student progress is where you get cool stuff like that. So in student progress, you can see my students are completely lazy. This is my Math Center staff. And you can see how many skills they've traveled through and all the different work they've done, and track all that kind of stuff. So I can go into a student here, and I can see that he's been working on the mission foundations a lot, working at our different skill levels, and worked on these different things, had 11 attempts. I got 7 of them right, what the different things he's working on and where he's at. From here, I can go in and make recommendations. And so this is where it comes in. So you can go in here and say, I really want you to do addition within 5. And I want you to do it before tomorrow. Or whatever date you want to come up with, right? And now this is a recommendation. It comes up on their site, and they have to do it before then. And then you can track it in here to see where they got it right, how many they got right, and that kind of stuff. It is a very kind of individual-based system as opposed to a blanket system, where you're not going in and saying, everybody should do this now. You're kind of like, I think you should do this. And so let me actually back up here. In this skills, so for instance, he did probability of space and got 11, did 11 questions and only got 7 right. So I'm kind of curious. Let's click on that. In here, it's actually going to give you that breakdown of what he did. Right? So he did 5 questions in a row, got 2 wrong, and then got a whole pile of other questions right. And so from here, I can go in and say, okay, you got 1 question wrong. What was wrong with that? And it actually gives me a play-by-play of exactly what he did, if he wrote anything on the screen, because there's a scratch pad option, and what he wrote each time. So I can see this student, for instance, 165 seconds, nothing, wrong answer, 17 seconds, correct answer. I suspect he opened the system, forgot about it, put in a wrong answer, realized it was wrong, fixed it. He knows this content. He's fine. If, on the other hand, this had been content that I really thought, okay, he really didn't get it, then I could go, okay, well, it looks like he really doesn't understand fractions. I can go back to those recommendations and say, go study your fractions, right? And I can recommend those directly to the students. So I like this as kind of a, in a sense, non-intrusive way when the student's saying, I'm really struggling in the course. I can be like, well, you know, I told you it looked like you couldn't do fraction, you couldn't look at you do this. These are my recommendations directly, and they're coming up directly on their site as kind of subtle, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this? As opposed to, you know, you need to work on fractions a lot. Go find fractions. So I'm actually giving them the links directly to the information. I can track what videos they've watched, badges, all that kind of stuff. That's a little much. And this is a kind of cute thing. They actually give you a timeline of how long they've worked on things and how much they've worked on things. So you might get a student over here that's got, you know, 40,000 points. You're like, wow, they're doing fantastic. And they spent 12 hours working on it the day before the test, which is why they failed, right? Okay. You can see it's kind of a long-term versus an instantaneous feedback. Okay, so that's as the kind of a overall class student progress view. This is the one I really use for my class, though. So I'm going to go back to a different class here. This is last year. So in my class, I use this a lot because what I'll do is I'll say, okay, we're working on probability this week. I want you to all go and study probability. I log into the day right before the class, and I look at it and I go, okay, people were kind of struggling on this. A lot of people couldn't get it right. Nobody A lot of people didn't do it, and some people did it, but they really haven't gotten very far. This is a concept I should probably review. This concept, nobody did. No point in reviewing it, because nobody's struggling with it. They're just not doing it. So I'm not going to bother reviewing it. I'll remind them to do some questions, and then I'll see how they do. Same kind of idea here. So I can go in, I can say, okay, everybody understood that concept, skipping it, they're fine, moving on. When we focus on this, let's review this, and let's track that kind of information. Again, I don't have, obviously, 100% compliance because it's an optional extra thing they can do for fun. I just use it as kind of a, well, it looks like the people who did it really didn't get it, so I'm going to extrapolate and assume the entire class doesn't get it. So it's nice for that. You can pull up different topics, so I can go here and say, what do they do for stats, or what do they do for probability, and pull into actually what they're struggling, bring up exactly what everybody's struggling on and what they're working on. I actually created my lesson plan for my final exam review off of this, based on who was struggling the most on which topics, and I would focus on those different topics, and they seemed to like that, so they actually realized what I was working on. So, and the last 3 buttons up here is a little grid of all the different skills. It's kind of overwhelming, but it's nice to see if you're doing marks or anything like that. If you want to do marks, or if you want to track what people are working on, you can go, okay, this student is struggling a lot, so I need to go work with them. Whereas this student up here kind of gets it. He did really well in the course, so cool. I can pull that kind of information up. And then this was the funniest thing I've ever done. Often what I'll do in my classes, I will get up, my hide alternate names off to the side and kind of say, here's the points everybody's got. Here's where you stand. Here's what we're looking for. So I'll often talk about the Khan Academy for a minute or two at the beginning of the class. So I finished and went off to teach my lesson and left my computer open by accident. I wasn't really doing anything. I went off to teach my lesson, and I left this window open. This is the real-time energy points of your class, to how much stuff is going on. Teaching my lesson, and this thing starts going off. There is somebody sitting in my class ignoring my lecture, studying stats. I don't think that's a bad thing. And so it's kind of cool to realize that they're actually playing with it. Because one of the things I completely forgot to mention this. One of the things that's kind of nice about Khan Academy is there is no mobile app for this. Khan has categorically said he's never going to develop a mobile app. It's never going to happen. Because they've just made the website work on mobile devices really, really well. Because he said as soon as he made a mobile app, the BlackBerry users are not going to get access to it, or the Windows users are not going to get access. Some whatever he hasn't gotten to, or some feature, or whatever. So he said we're just going to make a really, really good HTML5 enabled, like everything app that works on every single device. Go. And so it actually does work really nice on a smartphone. You can actually load up videos and you can do questions and everything else. There is a few little glitches, but other than that, it's pretty nice. Yes.
Yeah, from a technology point of view, that's an awesome way to do it, and I think everybody should do that.
Yes.
Yeah. There
Yes.
shouldn't be apps for things. It should be a HTML5 well-built website that works on cross-platform.
Having said that, somebody has developed an app for iPhone, but the point of the app is you can download offline videos. So you can go in and say, I'm doing this and I want to download all these videos because I'm on the train for 4 hours and there's no Wi-Fi connection. I just want to watch the videos. So it does have an offline video viewer, but that's it.
There's a Windows 8 version of it too.
Yeah, so very nice for that. So that's basically the system. Nice search bar. Okay. That's basically the system and everything that the students get and the coaches get, and how the system works. There's a couple more things I'm going to talk about for a little bit. But does anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments or ideas? Yes. Question? You?
Oh.
Yeah.
I missed it right at the beginning, so you're in here as an instructor, teacher, you have created a class, how did you do that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So back in manage students here. So
So when
under-
you logged into the academy,
Yeah. So I
back to square one.
yes. So yeah, that's okay. So start off with you're gonna end up at this page once you log in. That's whether you're going in through Google or Facebook or whatever system you do. I find a lot of students, I send them out an email to their Humber mail address and they want to add their Facebook or whatever. They just have to add it back. No problem. So from here, and again, this projector's a little bit low. You can see up in the corner here, there's a coach button. And all students see this. This is not a special. You don't sign up as an instructor or as a student. Everybody is a coach to everybody else if they want to be. There's no special status in the system. So when you press the coach button, and you go to the Manage Students tab, which is the default if you're not already in here. From here, I can make classes. So I just go in and make a new class, name it whatever I want. Community of Practice. There's my new course. and I'm going to say community practice should be working on grade 3. And then I just go in here and I basically went to my Excel file, copied all of my students' email address and pasted them directly into that.
Does Humber worry about that at all?
The Humber mail addresses are Google addresses. And so all they're going to get from this is this is just a quick way. They get a little email that says, your prof has invited you to use the Khan Academy through your email address. It's no different than sending an email and saying, I would like you to join me on Khan Academy. It's the same kind of email. Most students are going to ignore it anyway and add you through their own Gmail account or whatever they've got. It's just an email out to say, come join us. So it gives them some direct links, because I found a lot of students, I would tell them.
Can
Yeah.
I just clarify a little bit? We've had some issues in the past
Mhm.
with putting student information on a website somewhere. So
Mhm.
our student email addresses are on the Khan Academy
They're already in the
website.
States, so yes.
Is that an issue?
Email addresses are the most secure piece of information they own.
There's no student ID. There's no like their actual ID number not coming over.
So it's just
So
an email
emails.
address.
Yeah.
So
They actually have to
it's-
sign a
it's
waiver
the
technically to
Humber
get their email
website.
address. Yeah, it's just at Humber Mail. Yeah, I don't add their personal emailers. I add the ones that Humber issues. They work better anyway. Yes.
Can you show briefly, I don't know if you're planning on doing this, how you create your lessons? Like, you already have it built
Copy paste.
for me?
Copy and paste.
Is it okay?
It's really, really low tech. So I'll go back out here. Oh, don't do that. So what I do to, I hate this view. One sec. I want the top bar. Nope, not gonna do it. Okay. So what I do is to create a lesson plan, I would go in, say, grab a lesson.
Okay.
So again, I generally drill right through all this. So this is the whole concept. I would go and say descriptive statistics. I tend to link directly to this. So measure central tendency would be the concept we're covering, and I want them to see all the videos in the contents. If you really want to go to a specific video, that's a whole different thing.
Okay.
So this is the module I want them to go to. So I go up here, and everything is so tiny, and I copy everything up to the V. The rest of it's actually the video.
Okay.
And then it would link directly to here, and they would go here. So it's a two-part thing. On the one hand, I'm giving them a link to all the Khan Academy content, and I'm asking them to link their account to me. They're actually two separate things. I'm not linking them into the system through this link.
So you're not creating the lesson plan. You're creating the lesson plan within Blackboard. They're signing in to it through Blackboard, and then you're seeing their results
Through Khan,
through Khan.
yes. Because one of the nice things,
Okay.
if you put this link in Blackboard,
Yeah.
and they've registered the Humber Mail account, they're automatically logged into Khan Academy, because their Google credentials are already on their computer. So I can give them that link, they come right to this page, they do a couple questions, they go back over to Blackboard, and they're seamless between the two.
And you see their progress then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And as I said, I would suspect probably 3/4 of students who are using Khan Academy are actually giving me their progress. Again, I invite them, I tell them to add me if they want to. It doesn't really matter either way. There's no marks attached to my system. And that's something that, sorry, I just mentioned that too, that's something that I really do find amazing. I make all this stuff available as kind of an extra. I mention it probably 3 times throughout the semester, and they're doing tons of work on here. It's not a marks-based thing. I'm not giving them bonus marks. I do get the occasional student who comes to me and says, I'm failing the course, what do I do? And I'm like, you're in the system, but you haven't done anything all semester on Blackboard or Khan Academy, so I've never had a student that's getting 1,000,000 points on Khan Academy and they're, I'm failing the course, what am I doing wrong? Because it doesn't work that way. So yeah, there's no direct link, and there's no do this lesson.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing basically is I'm saying this week we're learning central tendency. Here's the direct link to central tendency. Go watch the videos.
What is more or less the percentage of your students who are using this tool, and quantitatively how good it is for them, and how time consuming it is for you?
Time consuming wise, I don't spend any time. I poke around the system once a week and say, oh look, people are doing stuff. So it's a very, very low. I do almost nothing for it. The only reason I do the coaching is just so I can track. Suddenly everybody's struggling on one concept. Okay, that was poorly taught. Let's go back over that. As far as uptake, I teach a weird class. I'm lucky to teach a summer course for bridging students. They're like the most keen students on campus. I would say about 75% of them link into the system. And this is, again, a voluntary system they're not being forced to go into. So the fact that they're doing that is amazing. My online stats class, about 25% of them. But then again, only half my students actually even show up at the Blackboard site ever. So, so yeah, between about 50% of the students are logging in at least and doing a little bit of stuff. Most students are kind of, more often than not, when I tell them about it, they go, oh yeah, I was going to do that anyway. So I'm just giving them the drill down links to exactly what we're working on.
So apart from students getting really excited about their points in there, what kind of feedback have they been giving about the user friendliness of the site or what they think of the lessons?
For the most part, some students really like the way Con talks and the way he does his visuals. Some people don't. And so I actually used 2 other sites, so I send them out as well. 2 years ago when I was running it, some of the stats questions were still a little glitchy in the way they were done. He was rounding halfway through his calculations. I don't tell my students to round, so there was a fight there, and they got a little disheartened, but they still kept going. They still really like doing the questions and really enjoyed them for practice. I think for the most part, especially in stats is a very, very difficult subject to have randomly generated questions because it's not X plus Y, it's giant formula. So I think they just like the ability to go in and just try questions over and over and over again and see where they're at. Because I give them review sheets, they do them, and they go, I don't feel prepared. What, give me more. Have a life, you know this, right? I can't just keep making review questions. So it was nice to say, here's all the review questions, just go do them yourself, instead of me making them over and over again. I also really like it personally because I find most students get review questions and then just skim over the solutions to make sure they understand them. So this was a nice way to say, I'm giving you the question and the answer, but you have to kind of work to get the answer. So any online system would have that as well. If you've already got an online system in your course, this is more of a, I know it's your test, you're doing really poorly because you don't understand basic addition, here's a resource you can go use. That's what I've been using in my Vista class for, is students are coming up and saying, I don't know how to, okay, let's go review that.
Have you seen any changes with students coming from high school, being more familiar with the product and using it in high school and not using it now?
Yeah, we are getting a lot more students know about it. When I first started, I was still apprehensive of what I was allowed to say and what I wasn't allowed to say. So students would come in and say, you know, I'm doing this weird course you've never heard of, and I really, really want some help, you know, but I'm not even a Humber student. And I kind of, you know, well, please leave. But you can Khan Academy. And now we just kind of just say, go to Khan Academy. And they go, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard it's really good. And they go off and they work through it. We actually, just last week, there was a big group in Mass Center, but half of them were on Khan Academy watching videos on their content. Because they were the students that are coming in and saying, I haven't been to week class in 12 weeks. Can you please teach me everything? And the answer always in the Math Center is no, but here's some resources so you can learn the content quickly. They seem to enjoy it. So. Yeah, it's sad. So, any questions? Yeah, so the last thing I was just going to mention quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on it. Here we go. In this coach section, something I haven't played with nearly enough is they've got a huge coach resource content. So if you are planning on integrating completely your course or whatever you're doing, they have a whole pile of videos of what they're actually doing down the states, these school boards, how you can work the different things, different reference materials, all sorts of background content to the Khan Academy content. And then there's also some promotional videos on where this content came from and how the content was created and Khan talking about different components of it and things like that. So some kind of secondary sources and content for teachers.
I guess, I don't know if you've heard anything, because the math is really highly developed, and I know he's just hired a lot of other content experts for biology and for all the things. Have you heard if they're going to create the question sets for those like they have for math?
I think the challenge for the non-math stuff is math is easy to code.
Yeah.
It's, computer says this, which is why I think a lot of this, I've noticed a lot of the stats modules are getting more of them. I don't know if I can bring one up quickly. They're trying to do a lot more interactive stuff. Let me see if I can, I was playing with one the other day. And I think that's where the biology and the chemistry needs to go. It needs to go to the interactive stuff, so they're trying to figure out how to get that stuff in. There's a nice interactive one. Oh, that's a code one, right. So yeah, this is an example. It's a completely different thing, but it's actually really cool too. This is an example of their coding program. And this is the code it's giving out on the side, so you can edit your own code. But it's more of this kind of stuff where they've got some really, really heavy computational process going on, and you get some really, really nice output. And so this bit of code, I've used it a couple of times. They can actually go in and edit their sample size and see if it's still normal and play with that kind of content. And I think they're getting more of that, so they've got the computing power right now, and I think that's why they're hiring the people to get the questions. So maybe soon. I tend not to hold my breath for Khan Academy.
Because I just wasn't sure if they were hired to do the videos or if they were hired to do the question sets, and I hadn't
I don't
seen
know.
anything.
I think the thing with the question sets, it's not a question of manpower; it's a question of coding power.
Yeah.
And that's I think they could start get a lot more modules that are working nicely for that. They're really simple currently, so I don't know when we're going to start rolling those out. Yeah, there's a really nice one actually. I can pull that one up. A little bit of interactivity. Where is it here? I remember this one now. Should be in here. Not gonna find it. There we go. Yeah, they're getting more questions like this where you can actually, drag and drop and move stuff. They're still really rudimentary, so I couldn't see chemistry being in something like this. But the fact that they're grading not just answers, they're actually grading visual input. They're working on it. I don't know where they're at with that. I think the computing project was a big deal. They got that. It was a couple of weeks ago, I think they had the data code or week to code project where they were trying to get everybody to go on and just code something, just to try out coding. Because the big push right now, I think, in all the non-school boards, is to get students to code a little bit to understand how algorithms work and how coding works, and get into coding. So they've got a big push right now in a lot of school boards and just trying to get students in to just try some coding. So it gives them a free platform they can try it on. So, yes, it's obviously not for students who are actually coding, but for students who have never coded and I want to code.
Yeah.
It's a great way to just be like, you want to code? Go play with it. It sucks, doesn't it? Okay, don't do that ever again. Oh, you like it? Okay, go into our program, right? I talk to a lot of students that, oh yeah, I'm going to go into coding. I'm like, how much coding do you do? Oh, I think they're going to teach me all this, right? Go try it. Just try it for 5 minutes. Play with it. And it's nice because there's lots of sites that do this where you can actually go in, code up, and you can code it however you want. There are 1,000 different ways to do it, and it still says, yes, you coded it correctly. There's no, you missed a comma here, so therefore no. Make sure you code it properly. So. Cool. Any questions, comments? Kind of short. Gotta talk to you.
That's very nice. I'm really glad I saw this today. I think introduced to that. And I think I will sit down with you because our classes around very similar, and I'm sure I can push them as well from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that they want to play. This is what they do nowadays, right? To get them motivated. That's really great.
Mm-hmm. I should mention that too, because this is a feature that a student pointed out to me once. You get points for watching videos, obviously, right? So a student, really savvy student, went, okay, I've got this system. Press play. I get all the points. No, you don't. It tracks every single second of the video and gives you 1 point for every single second you watch it. So if I just scrubbed that, and I wonder if it shows me here, I probably got like 1 point for that, right? Because it's saying, nice try. That was valiant effort, but no points for you. And yes, and this is one of the reasons I really would not encourage tying it to a mark for students, because if they want to get more points, they can just hit play and go do the dishes or whatever. So it really is I find that, as I said, the thing I find strange about the system is that the uptake and the feedback from students who are not being required to do this content at all. I'm saying, if you want some more practice, go here. And they're all doing it, which is, they won't do their assignment, but they'll spend hours on this. So, yeah.
It's the points.
It's the
I got
points.
sucked in like you did. I was watching videos to see if they were okay for my students, and I was getting points and badges, and I kept watching them because I wanted the darn points and badges.
So this is probably driving you crazy too. What are these and how do I get them? What do I have to do? I got an Earth badge the other day and I lost my mind. Because it's basically saying I can't do math, and I can. Honest. So, yeah. Yeah, it really, obviously, I'm going to talk a lot about this at the OAME presentation, because it is something that really base level, some kind of system that can stick with the students, something they can have every single time a prof explains something funny. You can go and check it somewhere else, go to Coursera, go to Khan Academy, go to JV Statistics, learn something else there and kind of have it with them so they can have that constant source. Even when your profs keep changing, your school keep changing, and keep saying. So I should mention that because it's a really cool project that isn't part of this, but does have to do with videos. There's a number of YouTube groups right now that are looking at education online, the whole education problem. They had a really cool conference last year, which I wasn't able to attend, unfortunately. And one of the things that came out of it was they realized that there's a lot of content out there. And as Richard Mitchell showed me the other day, he said, he's teaching a lecture and he taught something like 6 different ways, he showed them different methods. And the students were like, why are you doing this to us? Just pick a frickin' method and teach it that way. Don't give us options. And he said, fine. I will teach it one way for the rest of the semester. The only thing I ask is you have to pick which way. Okay, who likes method 1? 1/6 the class. Who likes method 2? 1/6 the class. Who likes... And so what the YouTube group is looking at and trying to work on is the ability to say, you learn like this, or you like this kind of video, here is the track. You can go off on that kind of stuff. This means that you can now have videos and content tailored to you, but also videos and content not tailored to you. So they can say, you're a visual learner, which means you can't learn like this. So we need to up that kind of learning and the education for you. And all the visual stuff we'll do visual learning to learn numeric learning. Or if you're a numeric learning, then you can do numeric learning to learn visual learning. You link the two together. So you'll have one kind of coach that will travel with you. And it'll probably Socratic is going to work on this kind of thing where it'll say this is the kind of content. So it's not just the best video, it's the best video for you and your style of learning, right? So yeah, I'm really excited about that kind of stuff. And something to track, that's why I like the Khan Academy for students, is they can track their progress, right? They can go on to the next grade, but it still says you have no badges, so yes, you did that. Cool.
Thank you.
So stay tuned for next month in May. We'll do sort of screen capture, how to do it multiple different ways. And we'll book that. It'll probably be a Tuesday at lunchtime once we finally get our room booked. I think we'll need a bigger room. Okay. Thanks for coming.